Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Riley Jetson, and today we are discussing mindset with a bunch of my friends, and it's the inaugural 2020 Executive Mindset Leadership Conference. And I'm really excited today because I get to introduce you someone who I consider to be a good friend of mine. We've worked together with his son on different projects, and then we've just become friendly. But I want to introduce you today to the CEO of Lendio, Brock Blake. Brock, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, Riley.
So this is
of course we're friends. Of course
That's
we're
right.
good friends.
That's right. That's right. I just
done a
feel
lot
like
together.
It really does feel like that now. Like we seem to talk quite a bit, and when we see each other, we have really deep conversations and fun conversations. So
yep.
I appreciate you taking just a couple of minutes with me.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So today, the genesis of this program and this thought is to talk to people that have succeeded on high levels, whether they own their own companies, whether they're in the C-level of their companies, and just talk to them about the mindset that it's taken, talking about some of the grit and the resilience and the difficulties really that it's taken to be where you are. And I guess the first thing that I would ask you to maybe share with us is maybe a little bit of your story, which is usually non-linear for most of the CEOs that I talk to, about how you got to Lendio. Where did you go to school? What were some of the jobs that you took, and what's some of your path?
Yeah, great. So for me, it started. I was at BYU. I played soccer there, and knew there wasn't a career in soccer. And I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, just scrappy, figuring out ways to get money. Whether it's as a young kid, you're doing lawns and other things like that. But when I was graduating, I found out about a program where it was kind of like the TV show The Apprentice, where they were going to give away $50,000 to 5 entrepreneurs, and you had to compete for it. You had 100 entrepreneurs apply, 20 that were selected, and then 20 of us went through an 8-week boot camp where we did a sales competition and marketing competition and a bunch of different things. At the end, fortunately, I was one of those 5 who won. And so I got $50,000. I could go and start any business that I want, or go buy a business. It wasn't based on a business idea that I'd presented. So I was doing a bunch of research, talking to a bunch of business owners, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And as I was doing that research, I realized that most of the businesses that I spoke to had this major challenge. And it was that they needed capital to grow their business, and they didn't know where to get it. And so early on, I used my $50,000 to start my first business, which was a company where we were connecting entrepreneurs to investors. And we almost did it like a speed dating style. You'd come in and we'd do it events, and then we did a dating type website where you'd post your business plan, and investors would come look at the business plan, and they would reach out and connect to you. Or you'd go to the event, and it was like speed pitching. You'd go table to table, pitching your idea to investors, and we'd connect them in that way. And then we grew that business for a few years, up to about 10 million in revenue. But I just realized we were not going to, the opportunity was there, but we were not going to grow much larger than 10 million in revenue. And for a few different reasons. And the primary reason was that most entrepreneurs they don't need investor capital. Most businesses are Main Street businesses, restaurant owners and landscapers and consultants and dry cleaners and whatnot. They need loans. So in 2011, we decided to shut down that business, going from $1 million in revenue a month to 0 overnight, and launched Lendio. And launched Lendio in 2011. And with this conviction that it would be much bigger than the other business that we had started. And it was probably I thought it was going to be much easier to go through that transition, but it wasn't. It was extremely painful. But anyways, we had conviction around it. And so now from 2011 to 2020, we've been building at Lendio, going through a roller coaster of a ride, through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And now we're at 550 employees, and we're much larger organization than we were with Funding Universe, for my first business. And we've helped over 200,000 business owners secure about $10 billion of loans, and especially during this PPP time was crazy. So anyways, it has been that's a very short version of kind of this career, and it has been a journey.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Yep.
One of my favorite phrases from one of my friends is you don't know what you don't know when you start down this path, right?
For sure.
And he goes, there's going to be good and bad, but hopefully there's more good if you keep, if you stay strong and you believe in your principles and those sorts of things. Sounds like you didn't know what you didn't know when you made that change, right?
Oh my goodness, you have no idea. I mean, you think you go through all these plans and you got this
Sure.
financial model and it's going to work exactly like this. We're going to go from A to B to C, and then it just after you get to A, B all of a sudden blows up, and now you don't know where you go next. And I mean, half the battle for me being an entrepreneur is I said it's the highest of highs and lowest of lows, but you just have to enjoy the ride. You have to, and some days it is just, I'm going to figure out how to get to tomorrow. And I have to be persistent. I have to figure out how to solve this problem and get to tomorrow. And if you can do that and you just keep putting some of those things together, and then you have a break that happens for you and things like that. But half the battle is just being persistent.
I love that thought. I don't tell a lot of people about this, but since we're doing this, my first child was born at 25 weeks, so she was
Wow.
in the NICU for
Yeah.
4.5 months, 113 days. I counted every day.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And I remember at about 60 days, we had a really rough day. She was sick. I had to hold her up. I mean, she's less than 2 pounds. I'm lifting her up so they can give her a spinal tap, so that they can give her all these tests and all these things, right? And I remember just getting done with the day, like you said, just trying to make it through the day. And I was just like, I called my mom on the phone. I was driving home and I was like, Mom, I cannot do another 60 days in the NICU. This was awful. This was the worst. And we'd been through a lot of other things too, just leading up to that. And I just remember the lesson was just so clear and so poignant. She's like, but can you make it through today? Can you make it through tomorrow? You know, that was her answer. And with all the different things that happened, we went almost 60 more days. It was like 53 days from there, That was the lesson, was just making it through today, right? Like, can you make it through today? Can you make it through the next day? And that's mental toughness to me, right? Like just being able to get up and try again tomorrow, having the courage to do that.
Yep.
What do you think now that you've been through some of these things, what's your definition of mental toughness? Maybe not what you get out of the dictionary or out of the, the standard rah speech. What's your definition?
Yeah. I mean, it's how you respond when things aren't going the way you planned. And so, so much, even this year for us at Lendio and as a community, it's just nothing like we anticipated. There's nothing that we planned about 2020 that's going the way we planned. And so when you have things that when all hell breaks loose and you have, these situations where it's a disaster, it is a trial, it is some major, a thing happens within your business that really hurts you. Like, how do you respond to that? And as you get, to be a larger organization, now you got a lot of people that are looking to you saying, okay, this is not good. How is he going to respond? And so being able to then not get flustered and not getting upset or depressed or so stressed that you can't think clearly, to me, is that mental toughness, where you can take a step back and you're calm. And now you start processing, okay, what's my next step? All I need to know is, how do I get my next step? And then how do I, you slowly get out of it. But to me, that is mental toughness. And one of the things that, my co-founder and I think we pride ourselves on a little bit, is that when all hell breaks loose, when nothing goes the way you want it, can you get out of it? Can you be comfortable in the uncomfortable?
Oh. You're like preaching right out of the mental toughness handbook right now. I love it. That's good stuff right there, man. I don't know how I'm going to fit all those quotes into one little like snippet after this is over, but that's awesome. Do you think you had some of this mindset and mental toughness before you went all through this, like at least a portion of it, and then it grew into this? Or do you think that like this has just been a learning experience that taught you toughness that maybe you never even anticipated that you would have?
Well, a little bit of both. I grew up playing sports, and when you go and you play at a competitive high level, I think that teaches you a lot about mental toughness. I also think that I went and served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Uruguay, and every step along the way during my mission, from when I first got there, and I was up in this, it was freezing cold, and I had surrounded by a bunch of people who spoke Spanish, and I didn't know Spanish very well, and my cold showers, and situation. My next companion was probably the companion that had the most influence on me, but at the time I couldn't stand him, and I didn't appreciate it, and I was just miserable, and it was so difficult. And so it put me through this fire and I just wasn't going to quit, though. I wasn't going to go home. And so, being able to get outside your comfort zone and look towards others and just make it another day like that, those experiences of sports, I think learning to work hard, and then, some of these challenging experiences with challenging, but so gratifying and amazing experiences of a mission and other things like that, taught me a lot about not being, kind of flighty, like stand in there and face it.
Punches.
Right. Take the punches. Exactly. So, but then we've gone through a lot. I mean, you're refined as you go through challenges. Being an entrepreneur, we should have died, 15 times along the way, where we've run out of money and we couldn't make payroll, and we've had near-death experiences and times where we thought we were going to have a deal close that was going to save us and they didn't close. And I mean, we've had so many near-death experiences, and every single one of those is it's like a badge of honor as you go through them. Because it helps you to be a leader, and it helps you to, because as the stakes get larger, the challenges get more difficult. But I would just share this one thing. I was listening to President Barack Obama give a speech one time, and I was fascinated by it. And he said, the thing about being the president is all of your decisions are the most difficult decisions you could possibly make. And usually it's kind of like the right decision is 51% and the wrong decision is 49%. It's not like very clear that 99% of the time you should make the decision, because all the other easy decisions will have been made by someone else. Because, and if it hasn't been made by someone else, then that means it's a difficult decision. It's going to rise to the top. So you're only going to get the decisions when they finally get to you as the president of the United States. You're only going to get decisions that are like the absolute most difficult decisions to make. And, I think that's true with kind of any in a lot of different ways, but as in running a business now, and I've got these amazing team, like now the decisions, they're very high stakes, and they're the most difficult ones are the ones that, you end up that rise to the top. And so going through that refiner's fire helps you to get to this point where it's like, let's go, got to figure out how to get through this and make these decisions and move with them.
I love it. That's a great, I mean, when you were talking about that story with Brock, I think about the phrase that I use with a lot of athletes and with people in the corporate world that I work with. I mean, pressure is a privilege, right? It only comes to those that earn it. and the pressure that you feel is a privilege in some ways, because you've earned it. You don't suck at what you do, And in some ways that's pressure, because we know what pressure is. In some ways, if we look at it in the right context, that's exhilarating, and it can build confidence, because you're like, look, people aren't asking me these questions because I'm terrible at what I do. They're asking me these questions because I've been through some difficulties, and they trust me to make difficult decisions. Right.
Yep. Exactly right.
Amen. That's cool. Tell me, tell me about your biggest failure and how did you overcome it and what did it teach you? What's your biggest failure? And this doesn't have to be in your business. This could be in life. It could be in sport. It could be whatever.
Um, Man, for me, there's there's a lot. Um, I think, let me just tell you a recent story that with my business that and that where we were flying close to the sun, and I thought we were going to crash and burn. We, as what we do is we help business owners get loans and business loans, and right now with this pandemic, the Congress passed the CARES Pact stimulus package, which is the largest stimulus package in the United States, which afforded every small business owner in America to be able to get a PPP loan, paycheck protection loan. And so we decided we were going to go all in. We adjusted our entire business and said, okay, we're going to change our mission from fueling the American dream to saving the American dream, meaning that we're going to help these business owners save their dream of growing their business that they put everything in by helping them get a PPP loan. And so we got into it, and we had all these lenders that wanted to lend, but from day one, everyone was so overwhelmed with the amount of demand from business owners that most lenders stopped saying, I'm not going to accept new customers. I'm only going to focus on the customers that we have. So we had a lot of customers that were business owners that their bank didn't offer a PPP loan. Their bank wasn't approved by the SBA, and so they had nowhere to go. They were stuck, and they were at a huge disadvantage because they couldn't go get a PPP loan from their bank, and they couldn't go to the bank across the street because the bank across the street said, nope, I'm only offering loans to my own customers. So we had tens of thousands of business owners that had come through Lendio to get one of these loans, and that we didn't have an option for them at the time. And so I was scrambling, just like felt this immense pressure. And I went and we were a few days into this, and we didn't really have any options for them. Not because we didn't have lenders before, it's because lenders all kind of said, I don't want to take on new customers. And so I went and found a lender that was a non-bank lender, and I cut a deal with them. And the deal we cut was that Lendio was going to give up some of our economics, and I didn't care because all I cared about was getting those business owners money. So I cut a deal with them, and the lender said, we'll take as many loans as you can possibly take. So we sent them like 35,000 loans for $3.5 billion. And they got them all approved. Well, 10 days into it, come to find out their capital, this lender's capital, was locked up. And they weren't going to be able to fund those loans. And I had 35,000 business owners across the United States with $3.5 billion of money. And I'm on CNN, CNBC, I'm in the Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. I've been quoted in every publication possible about PPP loans. And all of a sudden we have this enormous challenge. And we start getting blasted on Twitter and Facebook in the press, and I'm just thinking this is going to be the end of Lendio, not because of what we did, but because this lender that we cut a deal. We gave up our economics to get these business owners money, and now they're going to fail us. And so every single hour was just weighing on me. Every day just kept growing, and the stress and the anxiety. And I've got brothers and family members and people from church and from high school and from elementary school and friends of cousins, and every person that I know that has a business is like depending on me to get them this loan. So just, anyways, long story.
It's personal.
It's so personal. Yes. Just I've never felt so much pressure in my entire life. And every day that would pass, a brother would text me, hey, when am I going to get loan? I need my money. My business is going out of business. I can't make payroll. When am I going to get this loan? And a cousin would text me, hey, when am I going to get that loan? And we're just trying to push things back. Anyways, what they were supposed to fund within 10 days, it took them about 20 or 25. But we finally, like little by little, we started getting these customers, their capital got unlocked, and we finally got through it. We took some bad press about it, but once we got the customers alone, it was ended up being one of the most gratifying things in my entire life, and most meaningful things that we did in my entire life. But there were moments where I thought we were done. This amazing business that we built, we were going to be done overnight because that deal.
What do you think? What do you think's what's the takeaway from that? What is the takeaway?
I mean, there's so many.
I mean, that's pressure. That's just pressure. There's no way to say it any other way. That's just hardcore pressure.
Yeah, what was amazing about our team was just that we were just doing it for the right reasons, and so we ended up doing a lot of the things that the lender was supposed to do. I'm like, I don't care if it's the lender's job, we're going to do it because it's the right thing to do, so a few things. One is, you go big. There's risk involved with that, and there's that could mean you crash and burn and
right.
in a spectacular fashion, or it could be an enormous home run.
You swung hard just in case, right?
There's a fine line.
Yeah.
There's a fine line between incredible success and a massive failure.
Wow.
And then beyond that, like I said, just back to everyone was looking at me like, how are you going to handle this? What are you going to do? And you could crawl up into a ball and you can be in fetal position on the floor and say, we're done. Or you can, I didn't want to get on the phone with press. Like I had some negative people that were trying to hammer us. And it was like, no, I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to stand up and we're going to tell them exactly what's going on. Yeah. So you just got to face those challenges and stand up, and you're going to be better because of it. And hopefully you get through it.
Yeah. I mean, if I were to tell me if this is a fair synopsis, like you leaned into it rather than falling away. You were leaning into the pressure, leaning into the stress, leaning into the fear rather than leaning away or running away.
Yeah. No question.
Wow. What a cool story. If I were to bring a group of your peers, this might be maybe some guys on your soccer team when you were in college, or maybe on a high school team with you, right? And they were to fill in this statement, what would it be? Blake will be he'll be successful because he blank. What would they say?
Because
Brock,
he's
sorry, Brock, not Blake. Brock Blake.
Brock Blake, 2 first names, 2 last names. It's all the same. I didn't even notice. I think that they would say probably 3 things. Number one, he's like an eternal optimist. Number 2, he is driven like beyond, like incredibly driven.
Okay.
And then 3, he loves people.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. When you look back on your life, are there any coaches or bosses or influences in your life that like really stick out and you hear their voice a lot, even when you're working with this big time business today? Like, is there anybody that sticks out, and what were some of those phrases or what were some of those things that they taught you that left an impact?
Yeah, so I just say 2 quick ones. One, I had a soccer coach that literally coached me from when I was 5, and he ended up taking the high school job when I was there, and we went to the state championship. We ended up losing in the state championship, but this was a guy. 2 things about him. One is I knew he loved me, like he cared about me a lot, and we'd lose some tough games when we were younger, and I'd be crying or whatever. He would just. Back the state championship, the picture on the front page of the newspaper was him hugging me, at the end of that game, just like a dad would, But 2, he believed in me, man. When it was game time, it was on. It was like, Brock, I need you to score the goal, man. It's like, and it was just like he set that expectation that you're the man. We need you. And so that belief just made me believe. And so I love that. And then the second person would be my grandpa. Both of these individuals have since passed. But my grandpa was came from nothing, was the mayor of his town, and has a park named after him, and just everyone loved him. And he went from nothing and did very well financially with a bunch of land and real estate. But he was a man, he just loved people. And he always would say, Brock, remember who you are. Just you're a Blake. And what does that mean? And there were a lot that came with that. And so my license plate right now is RWYA, remember who you are. Just for in honor of my grandpa, just to, that foundation of the way you treat people and the way you represent yourself, your family, and everything around you.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Isn't it great? I mean, I tell people all the time, never underestimate the power of a well-timed and authentic compliment, right? But I think coaches and bosses have a unique, to me, they have a unique situation just by their title alone to bestow belief on somebody to help them to get it and catch fire. And, you think about your coach, you think about your grandpa, kind of bestowing that belief in yourself and, knowing where you came from, knowing that you're a Blake, right? Knowing that you're from that family name. I try to do that with my kids. That's why on my Instagram, it's Team Jensen, right? Like you're Jensen, like it means something. Like we do hard things and we're not afraid of challenges, and hopefully one day that gets instilled in my kids like your grandpa did it. But that belief is so powerful on all sorts of levels. If you could give yourself advice 15, 20 years ago, what would it be? What would be the one thing that would maybe make a difference to a young Brock Blake? What would you say?
I would say, God, that's a hard one. I'd probably say, be really selective about your team, people that you surround yourself with. And you want diversity of thought, but you want commonality in values. And so, we have all these values at Lendio that are core to who we are, specifically built around humble and hungry. And it took me a while to learn that diversity of thought, commonality, and values. And I think that, and then obviously that you want people that are smarter than you and all that kind of stuff, that are your team. But I think that's what to me, it's all about people. Life is about people. Success in business or life or sports or anything is about leadership and people. And so it's they'll make you better if you can find people with diversity of thought that are talented, they're driven, they're smarter than you, surround yourself by them, man, you'll go a long ways.
Love it. So I'm going to give you 3 words and I want you to pick the most important one and why. Okay. Bravery, courage, vulnerability.
Oh, jeez.
Come on, man. I got to make it a little tough on you. All the rest of the stuff's been softballs.
God, I'm having a hard time choosing between courage and vulnerability because I feel like the leader, people are endeared to you when you show them that you're vulnerable. But you also have to have that courage to go and take the tough shot, and make those tough decisions and lead out. So I'd probably say courage. I'll say courage because it takes courage to be vulnerable.
Okay, I like it. I like it a lot. I really like all of these things. I think bravery and courage are sometimes a result of being willing to be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So when we work with athletes, I think the best way to turn a loss into a win for a kid is you know, you lost that game because you shot the last 3-pointer, but man, that was really brave, and you reward the bravery and the courage of the moment, right? And that
Yep.
turns it into a win, because it's much more important to be brave enough to take that shot than it is to make that shot, right? And so, because eventually that shot's going to go in. Sometimes it's going to go in, sometimes it's not. But the people that are fearful of taking that shot never take it, right?
Yep.
And
Amen.
that's a cool answer. Couple more questions, and then I'll let you get back to your family and your business. And I just really appreciate a little bit of your time here. What is your philosophy on team building and establishing culture? And has it changed post-COVID? Oh, I guess we're not post-COVID. I guess during COVID. I guess we're not post it, right?
Yeah. So I mentioned this a little bit, but for me, team building, establishing what your values are. What is it that you believe, and that it will not change no matter what you go through? That these things are things that are core to who you are. I think are really, really critical, and finding people that that believe in those same values is really important. But then you don't want homogenous. You don't want people that are all the same. You want people that really think differently and have very different skill sets and talents, just like in a football team, right? Where everyone has their own skill. And the beauty is when that comes together and it starts to work, then you're a very talented team. But it's built off the values. For me, is the culture of the team. It is like, what do we believe in, and what do we hire and fire to, and how do we go about the business, and what does that look and feel like? And it's not, culture with business is not about swag and ping pong table and snacks and all of that. It's like, how do you feel when you come to the office? And we talk about Lendio, you're the CEO of your job. You know, we want to give ownership. We don't want to micromanage. You know, candidly, a lot of my thoughts around teams and team building and culture are pretty foundational, and not, they haven't really changed a lot during COVID. Now, the methodologies in which we go about executing is different. It's less in person and more, you know, over Zoom and other things like that. But the principles to me don't change.
Gotcha.
That's my philosophy.
Yeah, if I'm hearing you correctly, it feels like you spend a tremendous amount of energy on the front load of culture, like who you're picking and who you're bringing in and all those sorts of things, and then it becomes easier to build the culture in your company. Is that a fair assessment?
100%. Yep. We're very, very selective on the front end of the type of person. And if it's not a culture fit, we make a change right away. It doesn't matter how talented they are. It doesn't matter if they're the top salesperson or what. It literally doesn't matter. And I've learned the hard way that way. But as soon as it's not a good fit to the culture, and as soon as there's poison, we make a change, because culture trumps so many other things, and it is the key to our ability to execute. And it's a very much a differentiator for us. I mean, and we've got a bunch of awards around best workplaces to work, and, you know, Glassdoor top 50 in America cultures and all these things. And but it's not even about the awards. It's that we deeply believe that bringing a group of people together that and work towards something that's bigger than yourself, and with that have like-minded values, but diversity of thought becomes extremely powerful. And for us, get talented people, figure out how they fit within the organization so they know the vision, give them the resources, and then get out of their way. Let them have ownership. When someone has ownership, they're passionate about it. They're driven, they're motivated, versus being micromanaged. And so
it's interesting. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, because and I had mentioned to you off air, I'm growing my business and I'm thinking about things. And he says, hey, the one thing that I would give you advice about is if the person is the wrong fit, don't die a slow death because you keep them around.
Yep.
He said it's going to be the most important thing that you do as you're growing your business. And I took that to heart, and it sounds like that's what you're saying. Like, don't hesitate on getting rid of someone who doesn't fit the culture and the common beliefs, right?
100%. And sometimes that's hard because it might be a personal relationship, a
Right,
friend, or whatever. But
right,
as soon as you know and you feel this anxiety and this weight on your shoulders that's not a good fit, and you're like, oh, well, maybe this or maybe that, maybe if we go a little bit longer, but usually the right decision is, let's make a change. You're going to feel this weight come off your shoulders. They're going to feel relief, and you're going to be like, that was the right decision. I probably should have done it sooner.
right. That's interesting that you just said they're going to feel relief. The person that I was talking to yesterday said the exact same thing. He goes, sometimes you're being a little bit selfish when you don't let them move on, because it's sometimes a blessing to their life and a blessing to them too, because it's not the right fit. And,
Yep.
you know, that's an interesting tidbit here. I really appreciate that insight. So last question. This one might be a little tough. What do you want your legacy to be when you're done, when you're in the twilight of your life and you're sitting with your cute wife on the porch and they talk about Brock Blake, right? What is it that you want to be remembered for? What's your legacy?
How many lives did we impact? Through our business, we call it fueling the American dream. It's because it's not like a tagline. It is how many business owners are out there that have this dream to grow the business, and they need capital to do it. And so if you make it personal, and it's not business, it's actually like we are helping that person. And then along the way, so it's the customers that we've helped and that impact, and then not within our organization, we have 550 families that we're having an impact on. And how did we have an impact on their lives? And then, I coach football, and, how many young men did I have an influence on? And it's not about the number, it's about the individuals. So, for me, it's just in whatever aspect of life, can you have a positive influence on someone else? In some way, you helped them, coached them, inspired them, supported them, in whatever whatever way you had some impact on their lives. That's what I care about.
I love it. Well, that's all I got for today. Is there anything else you think people need to hear out there? Maybe advice on making it through the difficulties of COVID? Any thoughts on that?
Oh man, I don't know. For me, we can't just put everything on pause and just say, we're going to wait till this thing out. It's like, let's go live our life, right? Let's keep building our business. Let's take advantage of these opportunities. The relationship, get out and get your workout in, go on a bike ride, go on a hike, like have that balance, go on date night, like just keep your life. Don't let COVID put so much pressure on you that we're just stuck inside with fear. Right. We got to move forward with faith and think, man, let's go. I'm going to be better during this time frame.
Yeah. I love that. The thing I keep thinking during all this is when we start thinking about the future and we get worried about what's going on, and one of the biggest anxiety phrases that I see all the time is the word "what if." What if my grandma dies? What if what if this never goes away? I think that's a fearful statement, and so I'm just trying to help some of my athletes change it to even if, right? So even if some of these difficult things happen to us, we can make it through. We can be gritty. We can be strong. We can be smart about how we're doing it. We can do it.
Yep.
As a human race, we can do hard things. It's not just Team Jensen. It's not just Team Blake, right? Like we all can step up and do a little better. So, God, what a great interview. We appreciate your time. Please let me know if you ever need anything. I don't know if you need anything from somebody like me, but I appreciate your
friendship. Of course, man. That's the last piece of advice, man. Listen to Riley Jensen and what he's got to say, because you've had an impact on my son and a lot of other athletes around the state, and so I'm a big fan of Team Jensen.
I appreciate it. We'll catch up with you soon. Thanks
All
a
right,
lot.
man. Thanks, Riley.